Everyone. So today we are going to learn the basics of AutoCAD. So we'll start from the scratch. So before getting into the AutoCAD, we should understand the user interface. So coming to the user interface is nothing but it is the screen which will communicate with us, the screen which talks with us, which speaks with us. When I talk about user interface is something that it is a language that will be communicated between you and the system. So coming to this, if you look at the user interface of AutoCAD, for example, you use mobiles, right? In the mobiles, you will be having Apple mobile, you will be having Android mobile. So many times we'll say that Android user interface is different, Apple user interface is different. So it depends upon the screen which you communicate. That is nothing but the user interface. So coming to the AutoCAD user interface, AutoCAD is a software where we will be mostly dealing with the 2D drawings as well as 3D drawings also. So this is basically Autodesk software, name of the company, Autodesk. So coming here, so we have first starting with the menu bar. These all that you can see at the top. These are all what menu bar, and this is the annotation bar. The below the ribbon, what you can find is called as annotation bar, and something called as layer properties bar. Here you can find out the different layers that we will discuss later. That is, and there is something called as dimensions ribbon bar. And this is a workspace where we'll be mostly dealing with the many of the drawings, and this is called as command window, where this is AutoCAD runs on a system called as commands. So where we will be mostly inputting the commands. So it will be following the command for any execution of the drawings. So let us see one by one. Before getting into the screen, let us discuss about the units. We'll have something called units in the AutoCAD. What is this units? Let us discuss one by one. So if you want to set up the units in AutoCAD, the first thing what you have to do, there is a shortcut command called as UN enter. So you have to type UN on the keyboard and then you should give enter. So you will be opened with the pull down menu like this. So in this that you have length, precision, insertion scale and lighting. So let us get into the length. This thing, when we pull down this menu, we will come across with so many things. One is architectural, decimal, engineering, fractional and scientific. So one by one let us get into the detail. When I talk about decimal, so decimal is a unit. Actually you will have a confusion with which one to choose, right? Obviously when I am the beginner in AutoCAD, I will be having a confusion which unit has to be chosen. So when you think about it, let us say if I talk about decimal is something unitless. That means if you use decimal, there are units to scale inserted constant is there are so many things, like you have inches, feet, miles, millimeters. You can choose any of the units. For example, one unit will be that particular miles. If you choose as inches, one unit will be 1 inches. If you choose feet, 1 unit will be 1 feet. If you choose miles, it will 1 unit will be 1 mile. So decimal is that unit which is unitless. You can choose any unit out of this. So that is called as decimal unit. When I talk about architectural, especially most of the architectural drawings, as the name itself indicates, architectural drawings will be done by architectural type. So you have to choose architectural in that you have to go for either feet or inches. There are only two possibilities in the architectural. Either you have to go for feet or inches. So that will be dealt with architectural. Then we have something called as engineering. Especially the engineering drawings, here will be again dealing with the feet and inches. So you can work on the feet and inches as well in the engineering. Also you can work in the millimeter as well. So these are some basic units that you can use it in the engineering part. So then we have something called fractional. Fractional is something what if you want to use fractional numbers, then you have to go for the fractional, like 1 feet 1.5 inch, 1 feet 3.5 inch. So in that kind of thing you have to go for fractional. Scientific is something where you will be entering the values of very tiny objects, like very small objects, maybe in the microns, like kind of thing. You will be going for scientific. Or very large objects, if you are measuring, then you have to go for scientific values. But majorly most of the times we'll be dealing with only either we have to go for decimal, majority of the times we'll be using, then we'll go for millimeter. Or majority of the times if architectural drawings are being done, then we'll go for architectural, then we'll set it to inches. So these are the two major units that we'll be using mostly. So this is about the units. Next comes is something called here precision. You can see that there is a precision like 0, 0 0.0, 0 0.0, 0 0.30. What does it mean? Example, if I want to enter a number, if I want to enter a number of 3.4567, so when I use, if I use, for example, if I use decimal, if I use 3 precision, so if I use a number of 3.4567, it will only catch hold of 3.456. It will eliminate 7. It will round figure the value. That is something that called as precision. If I take two numbers, after the point, if I take two zeros, if I had a number of 3.4567, it will only take 3.45 into consideration. If I take only 1.10 after the point, then it will take only 3.4. So this is nothing but the precision which you are giving. So that is nothing but the precision here. Okay, so usually I will take the 3 precision minimum after the 0.30 you have to take, then I have to go for millimeter. So unit is set to millimeter now. Now question is, sir, how it is set to millimeter? You can see the small lines here in the grid. These are called as grid lines. This is called as what? Grid lines. So in the grid line you will be deciding exactly 1 unit. In that 1 unit is nothing but your 1 mm, because I have set the units as what? Decimal and mm. So 1 decimal indicates that 1 unit indicates that 1 mm. 1 decimal is equal to 1 mm. So this is how the unit will be set up. If I go for architectural, if you type UN enter, if I go for architectural, if I set it to inches, right, then here 1 division will be 1 inches. So this is how we have to set up the unit. So UN enter. So if I go for decimal, if I set it to millimeter, it will be over millimeter. Fine. So this is all about the millimeter. So whatever if I type, for example, if I type, for example, till now we have not got into this line. So if I say L enter, this is for line. If I type 1, that means it will be 1 millimeter. This line will be of how much? 1 millimeter, because I have taken the decimal as what? Millimeter. This line will be 1 millimeter. Now if I take L enter, if I enter, for example, 6, so this line will be of 6 millimeter. So this is how we have to set up the units. For example, if you set it to architectural, if I set it to inches, if I type a line, L enter, so if it is, for example, if it is 6, that means it is 6 inches now. So this is how it makes the difference, right? So this is how we have to set up the units. But majority of the times we'll be dealing with millimeter, because it is the least unit that we'll be using in all the drawings. So, and it is also user friendly. In many of the drawings you will find all the drawings in millimeter or inches. So it is better to go with decimal and millimeter. There is a better option of choosing the units. So that is all about the unit setup. Now after setting the units, once you go for UN enter, then go for decimal, then you set it to millimeter. There's something on millimeter. No, my unit is set in millimeter. Fine.